Microphone's making me nervous and I forgot my question. Do you feel that when you present the other officials in Wyoming government with the information and the statistics, do they fumble with the information that you give them? Do they still just continuously try to deny it? Or what do you think that turn point is going to be?
That's a great question, because this is going to be great comedy. I invite everybody for you to start watching the legislature. It's kind of like the discussion on climate change. It's kind of like the discussion on we don't have a dysfunctional government, and whose numbers are correct. Okay, see, that's one thing that you can always throw out there as well. You got your statistics from these guys, and they're all left-wing goofballs. You know, they all smoke pot anyway, so it doesn't matter. You know, and well, you get all your information from that thing called Think Progress or whatever it is that's so far right that we can't see it, and they make up all of their stuff. So whose numbers do you believe? Well, this is why on the governor's marijuana council, the university is involved. An independent statistician is involved. So that when we come up with numbers and suggestions there, they should be neutral. And most of the information, if you get information that is supported out of a university system, it should be neutral, non-biased, and good information to use. If you get information from anybody where the last page of the letter is asking you to send a donation, like a certain group of people who actually opposes this, sent out this letter defiling the whole thing as, oh my God, hair on fire, and all you people are really evil, and the very last page is, send us a donation. 5, 10, 25, or other. I told the individual who brought this to my attention, I said, go right in their face. That is a fundraiser, and shame on them for trying to raise funds off of something this serious. So, short answer, look at your sources for the information. If it comes out of an academic area, those are believable figures. If it's coming from a particular group, every group has an agenda. Do not kid you, they have to pay rent to somebody. So they all have masters. And so everybody's numbers will be skewed a little way, one or the other, but you want to look for the ones that are not totally sold out. So then you jumble all of that up, and then you do math in your head and take an average and say, okay, yeah, it's a good deal. Because everybody says, well, this will never pass, they can't get it. The university did a study last year, said 75% of the people in Wyoming like this idea, which scared people to death. That can't be right. Those people, and then they said, oh, well, they just surveyed students. And then they just surveyed people who live in Albany County. They try to make so many excuses. No, they actually did ask that little old grandma who lives in Park County, and that little old grandma that lives over in Weston County, and the old guy that lives over there in Teton County, yes. And this is what they got. So they really don't like that number because that scares them to death. Because to get your referendum, it takes 50% plus one vote of the registered people who vote in that election. So if we have a terrible turnout like we always do in elections, and only 30% of the electorate show up, you're looking at probably 60, 70,000 votes, and you're there, which is really scary. Because we should not have that when we have 539,000 people, but that's just the way politics are in Wyoming.
Anyone else?
As a stage 4 breast cancer survivor of 5 years, I know when I went through the treatments, I was on oxycodone, I was on hydrocodone, and got to enjoy all the side effects of taking those drugs because they were legal. Do you think that by doing medical, I wouldn't have had the constipation, the nausea, the vomiting, the horrific pain that goes with the cancer? Do you think that Wyoming can accept that as medical, even if we don't get it as recreational?
I'm gonna be totally honest with you, and by the way, congratulations for all you've been through. I have a neighbor across the street who just had a double mastectomy last year, and she went through all of that. The meds that they had her on had her puking off of the front porch every morning and every evening. She went to start smoking marijuana. She said, "It's a godsend." That's a quote. Now, back to the regulatory people, those people I work with. I hate to tell you this, but they are that cold-hearted as I don't believe they care.
They don't. They couldn't give a shit less.
So then I should adopt the same attitude and say, I don't care. Then put me in jail and you can pay for the chemo that I have to have the rest of my life on a weekly basis at $8,800 a week. And the county and the state can pay for my chemotherapy and transport me.
As cynical as it sounds, that would be an acceptable alternative to them. That's why
People we
we
don't
have
even know making
petitions.
decisions for us.
That's why you should be really,
bullshit.
really careful who you elect in this state.
Breast cancer patients just for that reason.
Because that's where those policies, that's where those rules have changed, that's where that attitude comes from.
And so how are they justifying spending that much on imprisoning people and
Because it hasn't affected them.
taking them out of
personally.
state? What are they saying to justify that?
It's the law. It's illegal.
The end.
They won't treat her in the prison industries, they won't treat her, she'll die. They're not gonna treat her, they're not gonna give her your chemotherapy.
Oh, I've seen guys in suits with shackles on with the sheriff's office bring them into Rocky Mountain Oncology right here in Casper so that they can get their medical treatment.
But they're not gonna treat you, they're not gonna treat you
Unfortunately,
long-term.
prisoners in this state
Get more rights than we
better
did.
treatment and have better access to health care than the average citizen. I know this
I
for a
think so.
fact. My brother worked as a dentist in the penal system here. He told me all about it. It is absolutely embarrassing to us as a culture. So yes, I can say that with some surety that they will not care, and their fallback is that's the law. It's been the law, and we don't need to change it.
Do you feel like the state representatives are still so confident that we're against this, that they believe they'll continue to be elected if they continue to block these sorts of measures?
Well, that's where you guys out there come in, okay? I think every elected official in this state who refuses to follow the will of the people should worry about their job. We're elected to represent not our opinion, not what we think is right, but what you want. The term is representative. I hold that title very dear and follow that as close to I can as the letter. Very few times do I vote away from where my constituency is, and if I do explain to them why I made that vote, why I went that way. But that's what we've lost sight of in this country. We have career politicians that have been in there so long that they're going to tell you what's good for you, and they don't have any idea who you are. They're that out of touch. And this is one of those instances where they are. So, you have a lot of power being the people who sit on that side. The power of the vote, the power of the referendum, and you know what? And if it gets really bad, you can actually recall us. You have that power too. because the whole founding of the political system and the structure of this country was based on the people having the last word, not special interests, not big money, and not career politicians telling you what to do.
So do you think a lot of the money that's coming from people trying to stop this from happening is companies like Big Pharma, the Sheriffs and Police Association?
I would blame that
places
one
like
on the
that?
cartels. They're really the only ones upset about it besides Big Pharma.
Well, this is an interesting thing. You know, politics makes strange bedfellows. And you know, I don't know for sure about the cartels, but this may be the first time that the chiefs of police are in the same bed with the cartels because they have a common goal. Okay? And Big Pharma is not right behind. You heard the story about using the oxycodone. Okay? If I'm Bayer, Squibb, Bristol Myers, or whoever makes that stuff, and somebody can grow something in their backyard that takes my billion-dollar pill out of play, I have a problem. And the chiefs of police and sheriffs, you know what, I find their whole involvement in this quite interesting. Because back when my father was in law enforcement, they were called public servants. That means they answered ultimately to you. This discussion seems like they're telling you what the law should be.
They feel they're out there making the laws.
Well,
And
I mean,
they
literally.
feel that
the
they're
conversation then is upside down. Remember, you are the people. They work for you. I believe, if I'm not wrong, you pay taxes and that's where their paychecks come from. So you should be the people making this decision. And if it's contrary to their position, you should tell them to find a new job. The same way that you should tell the people in my profession at the legislative and lawmaking level, if that's contrary to your position, not find a new job. You should not have somebody in my position tell you to leave the state, go find another place to live. No, you should find a new job in that government apparatus because you do not reflect the opinions of the constituents you represent. That's my opinion. That's why I'm in the minority.
Absolutely.
Anybody else? Yes.
I mean, I think something really important to remember is that, there's a lot of different ways that we can frame this issue to people. We can come and say, oh, well, look at the revenue. Oh, well, this is a constitutional right, or this is a human's right, or this is a medical issue. But, ultimately what it is about getting people engaged, making sure people are informed with the correct information, and really just trying to be as approachable and honest to people as possible. You're going to come across people that don't agree with you. No matter what you say, they're not going to agree with you. But really, if you're for this, you have to figure out a way to bridge that gap and to motivate people to say, you know what, let's just be open to the option. Just be open to the conversation. Wyoming has a really terrible voting rate. Our participation in our policy is, it's sad, to be quite honest. And, there's many ways that we can affect change in Wyoming. How many people do we have here? We have less than 1 million people. Do you know how easy that is to stimulate change, to actually do something? When you have less than 1 million people, you actually have to motivate. And that's not even people who are eligible to vote. That's an even substantially smaller number. So really it's about recognizing that this is something that is becoming common. This is something that people are going to realize, and you know what? It may not happen in 2016. It may take a while. It may take that conversation to happen. Figure in Colorado, 2009 to 2014. It took them 4 or 5 years for people to say, you know what? All right, we got medicinal. Now we want recreational. And that's what it's going to be like in Wyoming. It's not going to happen overnight. The conversations are not going to change people overnight. But it's something you have to be willing to be open and you have to talk about.
Well, the fact is that we have them talking, though. We have them talking. I'm from Walton, Wyoming. I have people in my own community that are dying and cannot wait for this to get on the ballot. Another Peggy in Kelly. She will die before this makes it.
Our biggest stumbling block and obstacle that I've come up with is not the educational part or re-informing society about what the benefits are. It's getting people up to vote because they don't
Register to
trust
vote.
the
Most
government
people-
that they're trying to change. So how are we gonna get them in there to vote when they give two shits less or they're a felon? Their vote doesn't matter.
Well, you need to get organized out there. This is part of that
People
grassroots
will
thing.
come out and say,
You know,
come out.
I can tell you,
They'll sit
besides
behind
this
closed doors and
referendum,
say it. Yeah, 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 yeah.
you scare the
They'll come out of the
established
house.
politician because they keep their seats because of low voter turnout. Now, if you organize and you get a whole bunch of people to come vote marijuana, don't you know they're gonna actually probably go down that ballot and say, oh, this guy's a real horse's hind end. I don't like him. And that last election that he won by 3 votes or maybe 20 votes, you can change that in this room. I have a list of elections. I had some research done over the last 5 election cycles. You'd be surprised how many elections got won on the state level by less than 100 votes. You people in this room could actually change the outcome of an election if you wanted, if you really put your mind to it. You take somebody to the polls with you, get somebody registered. We in Wyoming are one of the few states that have the easiest voting system in the country. And we make it easy for you to decide what party you want to belong to. We make it easy for you to vote.
We'll even let you know.
And so when you see across the country other states are going the other way, they're requiring ridiculous amounts of ID, they're closing polling places. Whereas, so now you have 8-hour waits in line to vote. And then you have to bring all of these documents that nobody on the planet usually has. Or it's so difficult to get them that you throw your hands up, by the way. And felons, we love to keep felons from voting. That's why we make felons, because we don't want you to vote. And you know, we tried 3 times to make it automatic for after you've done your nonviolent felony, that you just automatically get your voting rights back. You know what the discussion in the legislature was, basically? No, we can't have it automatic. They have to come ask. So basically, after you've done all your time and you've been embarrassed all that way, you have to come back and beg one more time.
After you've paid.
For something. Yeah, you paid your debt, free and clear, everything like that. You have to come back and beg to somebody one more time, and they have to stand up there and go, maybe.
Plus you
Okay?
have to bring all your paperwork.
Yeah, and let's not forget all the paperwork. So,
Do you think that we would get better voter turnout if Wyoming would join the current technological state of the country and allow electronic registration?
They do.
no, we could put voting on your iPad and we would still have a lousy turnout. Okay, unless we made it an option in World of Warcraft or Farmville, whatever it
Yeah.
is, Candy Crush, we would probably not see a significant increase. And I know that sounds very cynical, but that is
It's
probably
true.
not off the mark.
It's
Because
sad.
the way my constituents in government have operated for the last